Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting of the 16th of January. This is the first round of committees for 2024, so welcome, and the last round of committees before we move into caretaker period. Let me begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and their elders past, present and emerging. Before we get stuck into the agenda, I will ask if any councillors have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare. No, excellent. And I just note that Councillor Bennon has a broken leg, so he's on Teams and will be participating from home. We'll move straight. I don't have any leaves of absences from councillors because everybody else is here. We'll move straight into GB for Stephen Ball because he doesn't have any reports. Do any councillors have any GB for Stephen? No. Stephen, do you have any GB for us?
Through the chair, no I don't.
That's what we love. Get back to work, mate. Thank you very much. We now have 4 reports from the Economic Development and Sustainability team. I'll call David Radich, Ella and Christian up to talk to item 5.1, which is proposed subordinate local law for advertising devices. Who is speaking to this one, David? Christian, take it away, mate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, councillors. This report does not seek to make any changes to previous decisions of council. As you may recall, in September 2022, there was a special council meeting that dealt with the key policy matters of the new planning scheme, Logan Plan 2025. One of the outcomes of that meeting was a resolution to remove advertising devices from the planning scheme and to instead regulate them through a new local law. This is still the case. However, we've discovered that there is a specific requirement in the Local Government Act that council must in fact pass a resolution to actually make the local law. The purpose of this report is to obtain that resolution. So in summary, this report's administrative in nature. It doesn't change the previous decision of council. We still intend to draft a local law which will be brought back to this committee in several months' time for you to review and endorse it. We just need to make sure that we've ticked all the boxes, so we need to get that resolution under the Local Government Act to commence drafting a local law. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Christian. I have a question from Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate this. The number of local businesses that are using very highly lit signs in my community is growing at a rapid rate, and under the planning laws, they seem to be code accessible. So a change to this will make a difference to our community, to the aesthetics of the community, and I really look forward to seeing those local laws come forward, hopefully later in the year if I'm here.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Bradley.
Thank you. Through the chair, may I ask, will it include the roof restoration advertising signs that are just everywhere on power poles?
So through the chair, is that where there's a little sign and it's someone saying contact this to get your roof, those types of signs? They're, I suspect, would be more covered under the existing local law, being temporary signage. You know, people are just knowing them up with the intention to keep it there and remove it. They can still be regulated, and they are regulated currently. So if there's instances of those, I'd be referring those to, thank you, city standards.
Yeah. I'm just curious, though, if there's any way to toughen it up, because they just seem to proliferate everywhere.
So through the chair, so the process we're working through is reasonably surgical in terms of taking what's in the planning scheme and trying to put that into local law. As I understand it, there's a review or an annual review and a process to look at those existing local laws. So if you'd like those to get beefed up, I'm happy to take those comments, but I'll be passing that off to city standards as part of their next review of that process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Any further questions? There being none, there is a motion on the screen momentarily. I promised Jax I wouldn't go too fast, and then I went really fast. Thank you very much to the meetings team. There is a motion on the screen. Would someone like to move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Lane. Would someone like to second that motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Scott, are you in favour?
Yep, all good, mate.
Sorry, Councillor Bennon, are you in favour? Thank you. That has been carried unanimously. We'll now move on to item 5.2, which is the Logan and Gold Coast Faster Rail. Ella, are you speaking to this one? Thank you very much. Please speak to your report.
Through the Chair, good morning, councillors. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the Logan and Gold Coast Faster Rail project and also Council's key advocacy pieces as well as outstanding considerations relating to project information that's currently in the public domain. The Logan and Gold Coast Faster Rail project will double the number of tracks between Currabee and Beenleigh to connect growing communities and provide more frequent and reliable train services. This project provides the opportunity that can deliver catalytic change in a number of our key activity centres. It provides a significant opportunity for long-term community benefit by enabling incremental delivery of public realm connectivity and placemaking improvements in a number of our station precincts. Council officers were involved in technical working groups. We've provided feedback on reference designs, participated in reviewing project scope and technical requirements, and participated in station precinct workshops as well as precinct planning work that commenced in November. Due to the information being subject to confidentiality agreements, there's been limited opportunity to brief Council on the project ongoing. In mid-November, the next round of community consultation commenced with more detailed information being provided to the public, and that community consultation concluded in December. So over the last 2 years since the project was announced, a number of key considerations were raised with TMR, and a number of these considerations have been taken on board by TMR. I just want to mention 2 great examples. For the Woodridge train station, the retention and redevelopment of the existing underpass between Railway Parade and Station Road into a wide station underpass design will facilitate a safe and integrated precinct for Logan Central. For the Beenleigh station, we requested TMR to consider the impact of a relocated station further away from the town centre with significant potential impact on the existing town square, the main streets, and having a station removed from the centre core. The new station design proposed a station location east of the town square, close to the Beenleigh centre, which will provide significant additional urban renewal opportunities and a great outcome for the centre. There are several other considerations in the designs and recommended improvements or mitigation strategies that we've raised with TMR, and I just want to raise just a few. The provision of at-grade car parking on key landmark sites in centres such as Logan Central, Beenleigh and Meadowbrook is not supported and should not be considered because it doesn't align with our planning scheme. The provision of generous plaza areas at our key stations should be part of the station design. We should have high-quality design of stations and commuter car parks, sufficient pedestrian access with wide footpaths of at least 3-metre wide footpaths to ensure we can cater for all modes of transport. Precinct planning should form part of the detailed design moving forward to ensure that we can optimise the benefit from the investment in these station upgrades. Flood modelling and flood consideration should be included in the requirements for the station to ensure that we adequately address the impact of flooding as part of the station upgrades. There's a number of detailed recommendations around the stations. I'm not going to go into all the detail, but I'll just raise a few of the key things that we still want to consider advocating with TMR. With an Olympic venue now secured for Logan Central, the Woodridge train station should be considered in this express stopping pattern. We've raised this at the announcement of the project back in October 2 years ago. There's a risk to Council that once the station upgrades are finalised, there will not be another opportunity to change the station to an express stop. The design for upgraded station around Kingston Station should not prejudice the operation of the Kingston Butter Factory Cultural Precinct. Around Bethania Station, the removal of the level crossing could have impacts on existing council community infrastructure, and this should be addressed in the upgraded station designs. There's also potential impact on flood immunity and emergency access for communities surrounding this station, and this should be considered in the final station design, mitigated as part of the final reference design. Following the withdrawal of the funding for the multi-level car park at Beenleigh and Logan stations, for the Logan station, we now have a commuter car park shown as an at-grade car park on Valencia Street. This is not a great outcome for the centre, and council should continue to advocate for the delivery of a multi-level car park to ensure that council's strategic intent for the precinct as per the Meadowbrook Master Plan, the Meadowbrook City Deals and the Implementation Fund projects, as well as the draft Logan Plan 2025 can be achieved. For Beenleigh, whilst we welcome the new location of the station, there are opportunities to refine the design to ensure better integration and ensure that we have an activated multi-level car park that can provide a landmark feature for Beenleigh. It is recognised that the Logan Faster Rail project provides significant opportunities for the City of Logan. It provides more capacity through the network with high frequency and high quality public transport delivered for the city. There's also significant urban renewal opportunities that we should capitalise on. It is, however, important for Council to continue to advocate for outcomes that will minimise impacts on Council's asset and infrastructure and ensure that we minimise the risks to Council through continued engagement with GMR on the project and ensure that we review and assess technical information through the life cycle of this project. To this end, we've established an internal project control group to oversee and coordinate Council's input into the planning, design and delivery of the project. And this will require collaboration across a number of branches in Council to collaboratively provide feedback on Council's behalf. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Ella. I've got questions from Councillor Murphy and Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ella, for presenting this report, and gentlemen. I know that there has been an extreme amount of work in the background with regards to advocating for the upgrades of these train stations, and I'm very thankful for the advocation for the movement of Beenleigh train station from behind the marketplace to now where it will be in Sutton Street near McDonald's. So that gives us an opportunity to keep the town square and not interrupt the centre of the town. I hope that in the future that we continue to advocate for these extra points that you have put in the report. There are a lot of things to take into consideration, but my biggest hope is that TMR also engaged with us councillors more openly and transparently so that we can provide our community with the information that is available as well. So thank you very much to your team. I know for my area in particular of Beenleigh, it has definitely been a win. However, we still need to tweak some of the requirements for our area. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much through you, Mr. Chair. It's a good update. The project will definitely benefit the area of Woodridge and Logan Central. The underpass was an absolute winner-winner chicken dinner between your team and the state member. We've managed to secure a really great outcome for the community in terms of safety, aesthetics, and being part of an Olympic process and having that flow of traffic is going to be absolutely amazing with that underpass. The improvement to the Croydon Road streetscape got underway on Friday, and thank you so much to your team for that. I just think you're hitting it out of the park when it comes to local projects and actually identifying and listening to us about our concerns, but also coming forward with your own. I think that sometimes we get a bit passionate about our community and we get a bit territorial and a bit proprietary, but you actually come in with some great ideas and you advocate on behalf of all residents of Logan, and I thank you very much for the work that you've done. So Ella and Dave to some extent, good job.
Thank you, Councillor.
I've got Mayor Power, then myself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question surrounds what is happening in Gold Coast and Brisbane as far as this rail setup. Is the station designs consistent with what Logan's getting? Are we, getting the same type of construction? Is it, what I mean, like when they upgrade a station, they'll use obviously some sort of design, materials and that sort of stuff. I'm just wondering whether or not we'll be consistent with what other local authorities are getting as part of this broader project.
Through the chair, we don't have detailed information relating to materials and that level of detail, but we're definitely advocating for well-designed station buildings that also align with local identity so that they're unique to Logan. But I'm happy to come back with more information once that becomes available.
Okay, so we haven't got really an outline of what is actually happening in, say, for instance, Gold Coast, what they're getting. I would like to compare ours to what they're getting, because I'd hate to think that we're getting shortchanged. I'm not suggesting they are, but I'm just checking to see whether or not that is the case.
1 second. Mr Mayor, I believe that Councillor Lane has some information in relation to that. She's been briefed by the state member.
Thanks very much. Through you, Mr Chair. So when it comes to Logan, they're looking at our uniqueness, nerve and talent. They're looking at us as a separate individual location. In the case of Woodridge, they were looking at the stock standard thing that they do at every train station, which was an overpass with elevators. And we went in and we said, this is not good for our community safety, this is not good for our aesthetic, this is not good for us as a city. And the state member went in and challenged it and advocated for it, and we now have that big underpass going in. It's a great win for the city. When it comes to the Logan Lee train station, the connectivity through to the parking area and to the hospital, again, the only thing that we have close to it is Dutton Park, and that's been shut, but it's a stock standard design rather than something unique for us. So Kingston Station, the vibe will be the same as everywhere else along the train line, but Woodridge, they really came to the party and worked with us on what is a good social design, a safe design, and an aesthetically pleasing design. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Bear in mind that if the Olympics continue, that will be an Olympic station. Yeah. Okay, so I would expect it to be a little bit better in design and obviously catering for not just today but in 2032.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That's why the discussion around what can we do to make it an express stop is still live, although there's some design challenges there, I understand. Ella, I just wanted to thank you and the team for your great work. I know that Councillor Lane and Councillor Murphy have both expressed their thanks, but speaking to TMR from the other side, because most of the briefings that councillors have been able to get have been through their state members because of the restrictions on your ability to communicate with us. TMR speak very highly of your team and how much you've contributed, and they're listening to you, which is really important, because if you're telling them what the community wants and what they think council wants and they're not listening, that means that your communication is poor, but they are definitely listening. This is a huge project, and councillors who were here last term remember me banging on about wanting Logan Lee train station relocated as soon as possible, and that I badgered everybody I could find, from the Premier down to the local members, to say this is really important for our city, this is really important for the region, because I used to represent Logan Lee, that's now in Councillor Hall's area. It's great to see that one will happen first, but Councillor Lane's actually gazumped Logan Lee by getting this underpass at Woodridge, and I think it looks amazing. If you haven't had a chance to get down and actually have a look at the design on TMR's website, you can see completely from one side of the train station to the other. My main concern is about what we're going to do about the commuter parking and how it's going to interface with the centre, but there's a huge opportunity for urban renewal. But I just wanted to remind people that though this is the biggest public transport investment we've seen in our city in decades, and it's a really exciting project, as the Mayor said, that could change the face of the city, there's also people who are being asked to give up their homes during a housing crisis so that these upgrades can be built. So while it's really easy to go out and say, yay, shiny new things, there's also a real human impact to our residents where they're suffering because they don't want to move. They're in their forever homes. And the people who did early acquisition, who are happy to move on, that's all done. And now we've hit the hard part. For the next 3 months, it's going to be people who don't want to move being asked to move for the good of the city, and it's a big ask. So if you may hear and see people who are stressed about it and want to know what council is going to do about it. And I know that there's a clear expectation for the community that even though it's not our project, they expect us to communicate really actively about what's happening, what stage it's at, and advocate for the best possible outcome. So I know that the councillors who have it in their electorates are doing exactly that. But I suspect that as we come to an election cycle, everyone will want to know what is council doing about this and how we're taking care of our residents. So thank you for what you're doing in that space. I really appreciate it. Has anyone else got any questions? Councillor Hall?
No, I'd just like to thank the team for within the report acknowledging some of the shortcomings within the design that TMR has provided. As you know, I've done several community consultations specifically regarding the fast rail line, and there are some huge shortcomings, especially in the Bethania area, all of which are acknowledged within the report. So this really shows that Logan City Council is listening to the residents, listening to the feedback that's coming in from those consultations as well, and is, you know, moving to make sure that they're in some way addressed or at least acknowledged within this project moving forward into the future. So it's great to see that Logan residents are being heard, are being listened to, and I'd just like to thank the team for that.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Are there any further questions? No, there is a motion on the screen. Would someone like to move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Would someone like to second that motion? Thank you, Councillor Lane. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously. Councillor Bannon, are you in support?
All in support, my friend.
Thank you. Councillors, we'll now move on to item 5.3, which is the Springwood Town Square update for January 2024. David Radich, are you speaking to this report?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Take it away.
Through the Chair, so the purpose of this report is to provide for the public record a chronology of events which relate to the Springwood Town Square. So stepping back in time, the Town Square was identified in some historic master planning work done in 2009. At that time, the aspirations for the centre are still what they are now, to be a really vibrant principal centre that has a whole range of commercial office spaces, restaurants and other nighttime activities. The Town Square really was identified as a place for the workers of Springwood to go and enjoy some green space over their lunch period. So that intention is still carried through, and you'll all remember the discussions that we had around the planning scheme, and including the provision of a town square of 2,000 square metres into a future planning scheme. So that policy is drafted and has been submitted to the state government. The state government hasn't opposed any of that policy, so it's quite specific around the sizing in both a AO and a PO, which is the highest levels of criteria within a planning scheme. Practically, what does this mean? So the delivery of a town square through the Logan Plan 2025 allows development assessment to enter into infrastructure agreements with large mixed-use developments to deliver a town square at no cost to council. So it's a great win for the area and a great win for the city. Happy to take the report and the chronology as read and answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Any questions? Councillor Harrimeyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Oh, Mr. Chair, apologies. I'm really encouraged to hear that description around a public-private partnership to be able to deliver a town square. We've just been talking about train stations, and what we saw from the state government in Brisbane is that they had land and they actually entered into a public-private partnership to not only deliver housing, but at the same time upgrade the train station, paid for by the developer. So it's really good to hear that council is starting to think like that more. Hopefully we can see more infrastructure get delivered that is paid for by developers rather than the public purse. Thank you.
Through Chair, I'll just respond to that. So we have seen some great outcomes that are happening in Brisbane around large mixed-use developments and the provision of public space. So examples are Fish Lane and Gasworks. So those are really large mixed-use developments offering open space for the public. So people will either recreate there during lunchtime or recreate there during the afternoon. So under this current fiscal environment, we're certainly leaning more into those public-private partnerships.
Thank you very much, Dave. I have a question from Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you. Through the chair. Thank you. I actually really liked reading all about the greenscaping of the streets and that sort of thing. I was like, actually, I really like this, but I actually wanted to hear from the area councillor and see if she was actually in favour, in support. Did she like the plans?
Councillor Bradley.
Thank you. Through the chair, I was actually going to put my hand up, but I was waiting to see what other people said first. I do have a question for the manager or for whoever wishes to respond. I did actually ask for examples. I did have a briefing via Teams, which was the first time I knew about this. I had asked for two rounds of committee meetings last year where this report was, because I asked for it back in March and I was told it would be ready by June. Yeah, so my questions relate to some of the stuff that's not in here, in the report, and I'm just curious if there's a reason for the transparency not being there. There was meetings with the Mayor, the CEO, the Director and myself, which were minuted in relation to the Springwood Town Square. And is there a reason for it not being in this report?
So through the chair, I remember that meeting. I guess the chronology of events doesn't go that deep, but the recommendations and the outcome from that meeting was an agreement that the provision of the town square would be facilitated through a planning scheme.
Through the chair, there was also something else that was minuted, and the Mayor actually wrote to the state government and asked about land along the M1 and the option for council to utilise that as part of a town square.
Yes.
Yes. I would like that as part of, in the recommendation, through the chair, because I may not be here one day, a lot of other people may not be here one day, and I think if there will be shortcomings down the track, whenever the M1 is upgraded, whenever that will be, if there is not that opportunity. So I would like to add that as part of the recommendation, because that was the intent.
Have you got wording for that?
No, I'm just going on the fly here, but I will have a look at what is there and see if I can help.
Yeah, if you want to have an amended recommendation, yeah, it'd be good to have the wording for the meetings team. So if you want to start working on that while councillors ask their questions, because I've got a couple of questions floating around still, Councillor Bradley. I've got Councillor Wilcox who wants to finish her comments, and then Councillor Lane.
Thank you. When I was reading the report, I actually really liked it. As opposed to having an actual town square, for me, having a square block, I guess, I hate to say this, probably similar to what Beanley has with their town square. I really liked this. I liked the green space that's coming through with the roadways and stuff like that. I wish I had it, but I literally can't. So what I'm failing to understand is, Councillor Bradley, is there something missing? I don't understand what you want to see in a town square. What is missing from the report is what I'm really struggling to understand.
Thank you. Through, if I may, through the chair. Could we please add a drafted recommendation, something with like an option for council to acquire land along the M1 when it is upgraded?
Can I get you to email that through to them?
No, the staff are typing.
Councillor Bradley, so on the fly, recommendations usually get pretty bad outcomes. So if you could get them to just flick a quick email with what you want it to say, and then we can polish it through. Councillor Wilcox asked you a question though. Are you going to respond to that question?
It's all well and good to say that you want land on the M1, but what do you want to happen with that land on the M1? Do you want to see it with a town clock? Do you want to see it with a big open block of green space? Like, this is what I don't understand. What do you want to do with the land?
Thank you. Through the chair. It's interesting conversation that we're having here and the questioning. So I'm very grateful for that, Councillor Wilcox, and for your insight into something that has been expressed for a very long time. Obviously, within the report, it refers to green space, and that's what the community wants. even in a meeting that Councillor Raven organised late last year following on from a report within council about council acquiring land. It was also raised there that council look at acquiring land. There is an option when the M1 is upgraded. Usually council has a first right of reply to actually acquire land. The Mayor has already written to the state government asking for that. Now, I'm just mindful that the Chair has asked me to email. I can't talk and email at the same time. So I'm not sure.
You can come back and answer that question afterwards if you like, Councillor Bradley.
I've answered my question, the question.
Okay. There you go, Councillor Wilcox.
Thanks. For me personally, I like these plans. It's green space, it's along roads, it's changing the road lanes. I love Fish Lane. I love all of those little back alley streets and that sort of thing. What I'm struggling to understand, or if it's a town square, where do you put it? If it's on the M1, is it within walking distance? When you're reading the report, people actually like the thought of walking in between the two shopping centres. If it's on the M1, is it away from the space? You know, are they going to be able to walk there if they're working in both of those shopping centres? I'm just thinking of things like that when you're walking around in the city and you're walking through all the green spaces and walking down the alleyways and stuff like that. That's what I'm struggling to understand. Does it need a town clock? Does it need something similar to what Logan Village has with the with the green, or with the Anzac Day space?
The cenotaph.
Thank you. I'm having a mind blank as I'm talking. I'm struggling to understand what the need is. I love the plans about all the roadways and that sort of thing. I wish I could have that. You know, I've got a huge space, but that's mine.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. And it's a good point, and that's, I think, why the report settles on doing it through the planning scheme, because then it will be nearer development by its very nature. The acquisition of land near the M1 is probably a good idea in general. Whether or not it gets used for a green space, a town square, or something else, I think that we had a discussion about strategic land acquisition that related to that during one of our strategic planning days. Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Through you, I walked in here today thinking I knew exactly where I was going with this, but when Councillor Bradley raised the issue that there was information missing from the report, I don't feel like I can make a good decision today if there is pertinent information missing from the report. So I won't be supporting any recommendations today, but we'll call for a deferral of this until we have all of the information inside the report, please.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Dave wants to respond to that.
Through the Chair, so all the information that is relevant to the council and council decisions and meetings is in the report. There is nothing that we have excluded that would alter the decision of all the recommendations within this report. And and I'll remind the councillors that this recommendation is something that you've already endorsed anyway. So this is to deliver the town square as part of the planning scheme. So there is no void of information here that is so significant that I don't feel that you can make a decision.
Thanks, Dave. I'm just listening to the person next to me submit their concerns. So, as I said, I walked in here knowing what I was going to do, but that actually changed it a little bit because Councillor Bradley has indicated that there was important information that should have been included in the brief that she feels should have been in there. And I just don't know whether that does make a difference, whether there were comments made or... do you understand where I'm coming from? Like, I don't want
Through the Chair, the Mayor attended that meeting. The Mayor recalls the discussion, and the outcome was that it would be delivered as part of the planning scheme. That reflects the minutes that were circulated.
Mr Mayor.
Can I say this? Springwood is like watching the paint dry. And I say that because I've been in this place for so long. I remember when they built the 8 Mile Plains bus station in about 1998, I think it was, the last century. And still down the road, we're still waiting for the bus station at Springwood. Can I just say that, you know, waiting for that to happen is a catalytic program. Like once that goes in, then everything sort of will follow that. And we've been waiting for that whole time. I mean, the promise is still not there. And I doubt whether or not it'll be done by the next election. I think patience is a virtue here in that we wait for the bus station to actually get there. The state government are aware that we are looking at land to work around for the Springwood. I sent a letter in some time ago. I think we just progress this, but I think as soon as that bus station goes in, everything will fall in place. It's just so frustrating that piece of infrastructure, because the existing bus station is not really a bus station. It was to shut Councillor Darren Power up at the time because I was whinging about it, and then it got put in, and I remember standing with the opposition Transport Minister and saying, this isn't a bus station, this is a joke. And we've had that ever since. But the opportunity when the land is, when the state government takes a lot of that land up, a lot of those businesses have to remove themselves. That's when the opportunity comes. And it's sort of a bit hard because I still think they're changing their minds on how they're doing this. And as you remember, we were going to lose that health building that's standing now. At one stage, that wasn't going to progress, and then luckily enough, we were able to get that done. So patience. Let's get this done. I know this. I would have loved to have seen something happen in my term as mayor, but I understand that really we're waiting for the state government to actually land this, because everything will go after that.
So, Mr Mayor, are you saying that this report adequately reflects what was discussed in the meeting with you, Councillor Bradley, and the officers?
Look, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get involved. I did send a letter, and the onus is, the problem is that we've got opportunities when the land gets taken up for the busway, and we can't actually see what opportunity the state government will give us. And I'm a bit frustrated by the slowness of that. But we spoke about, I remember we spoke about the town centre, and I remember saying that if we were able to get some land at the front of Springwood, we could change the whole face of it. But how can you put something in place when you don't know what you're going to get? And that's the frustrating bit here, is that we're working with the state government, but I think that would be a better, because if you put a facade on Springwood, that at the moment it's a car yard city, if you change the face of Springwood, I think that would enhance it and create a better aspect. And I think with the bus station, of course, there's going to be so much development, because real estate agents are going to see the opportunity of having, obviously, higher density in that area. They'll want to locate near that bus station. But it's frustrating, I know. I take that in. I understand where the local council's going, but the officers can't see that opportunity at the moment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So do you think doing it through the planning scheme is the best way to do it? Because do you think doing it through the planning scheme is the best way to do it, because it gives the flexibility when the other pieces of the puzzle
the
fall in
word
place?
flexibility is what I mentioned at that meeting. I said we need to be flexible, because we could get a better opportunity of actually having frontage on that Pacific Highway to put something in. I remember saying that.
Yeah, it's not in the report.
And Dave, we already have like a council decision to investigate land that the state comes to us and says, hey, we've got leftover land from an infrastructure project, be that faster rail, or be that the M1 upgrade, or be that the Springwood bus station. Do we have council recommendations that let us act on that, or do we need something additional added to this report?
Through the Chair, the Springwood Implementation Plan mentions the opportunity of land that is surplus to infrastructure projects requirements and the investigation for that for green open space. Regarding the town square, if we were to be given a piece of surplus land from the state government, council would still need to fund the embellishment costs of a town square. That's why the recommendation in front of you is to confirm again the resolution that's already been made by council to include it in the town square, include it in the planning scheme, because it's these mixed-use developments that provide the best opportunity to deliver something at no cost to council.
Understood, but is there something that already exists where we've established that if the state offers us surplus land from infrastructure projects, we have the capacity to investigate that, or do we need another recommendation that says that? Because Councillor Bradley's recommendation is essentially seeking that if land becomes available in Springwood, we should investigate it. That's the gist of what she wants us to add to the report. But I thought we already had we'd already made a decision for strategic land acquisition in related to infrastructure projects. It's not specific to Springwood, but is for any infrastructure projects in the city.
Through the Chair, no, I don't believe we have an existing council resolution that covers that.
Thank you. That's what I want to get to. So I've got Councillor, I'll come back to you, Councillor Bradley. I've got Councillor Murphy, then Councillor Bradley.
Thank you. Through the Chair. Would it be possible to see the amended motion that Councillor Bradley would like to have us vote on, please, and see what the difference is with this recommendation? And Mr. Mayor, are you happy with this current recommendation, or you're happy for the amendment?
I'll ask Dave a question before I answer that. Given the discussion we had in that meeting, Dave, and I understand what you're doing, you've got the plan and you've also got the planning scheme. Have we got it set up so that we can be quite flexible with regards to land becoming available as part of the land acquisition from the state government?
So the planning scheme talks about the delivery of a town square as part of a mixed-use development. So it doesn't include surplus leftover state land to deliver a town square.
I think we have to be quite flexible here, because you've got to remember that we've got a state election in October. This could be a very, very hard-fought seat, as you know. There is a situation where Springwood is actually the bellwether seat of Queensland. So whoever is in office, in government, actually has Springwood and has done for the last 40 years. So I think we need to be quite flexible here so that we can obviously have it in a way that we produce something that could create some political promises that could create a better Springwood.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, that amendment there, is that just added to the current recommendation, or is that completely what we would be voting on, that particular sentence there?
This is the original. This is the original recommendation. We'll do Councillor Bradley's addition afterwards. It's called an amendment because there was an administrative change between when the agendas were issued and when we got to today. So that's the original recommendation that the council officers have put forward. So I assume everyone's read that while the Mayor was speaking. Anyone else need it for any longer? No? And then we'll put up Councillor Bradley's additional.
But that's not the recommendation in the report.
No, it's been amended because there was an administrative mistake, or error, I should say. And the officers asked for it to be corrected. So is that the original one?
And is that...
This is Councillor Bradley's recommendation that she sent. This is Anita's recommendation. Sorry, yeah, this is the corporate governance manager's recommendation based on what Councillor Bradley's informed her that probably needs a little bit of work because it says future reports and other bits and pieces.
So, Councillor Bradley, are you happy with that
No,
particular amendment to the motion?
Now you can go.
Thank you. I'm waiting for the chair
for a turn to speak.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my turn to speak. I just want to have it as an option because I don't want to tie up a future council with just what is in this report, because that, as the Mayor has said, well, there's a state election coming, and definitely the state seat of Springwood determines usually who swings which way the government is. So I want to just have it as an option for a future council. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. It just has as an option. So I don't know if that is the correct wording of what I was trying to get at, but
I don't think it's achieving what you want, Councillor Bradley.
No.
Such is the risk of on-the-fly recommendations. Councillor Karansky had a suggestion. My suggestion is going to be that we defer so that we can actually do a proper recommendation. So it's far better for the committee if you come with a pre-prepared motion rather than chucking it on the floor at the last minute. But Councillor Karansky?
Mr Chair, I think we know the intent of where we want to go. We've just got to get the wording. I think we need to do that, and I would move that we defer this to the full council meeting.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Karansky?
Thank you. You probably took the words out of my mouth, but the one thing I did want to say is, why is there such a variation between the recommendation in the report and the recommendation we just saw on screen, and why were we only made aware of that when it turned up on the screen a moment ago? Because they're quite different.
Dave, do you want to speak to that one? That's why. What's the administrative change and why was it made?
So the change was that the original wording talked about a future report to be submitted back, which is effectively relitigating an existing council position. So we didn't feel that there was the need to produce a future report that talks about an existing council position. So the recommendation is that we continue with a phased approach for it to be included in the Springwood local plan and the new planning scheme, which is already an endorsed council position.
So given that set of circumstances, I really would like time to let this rest with me between now and when I make my decision. I need to review the report. The intent, I'm happy to support. There's no issue with that, but I just don't feel comfortable making my decision today.
I agree. Thank you, Councillor Karansky. Normally we'd cycle through testing each one of the recommendations and then end on deferral, but from the sentiment in the room, I can tell deferral is what people are preferring. So I'll test deferral first. If that fails, we'll go back and cycle our way through and then workshop anything that needs to be done. The Mayor has moved that the matter be deferred to Ordinary Council. Councillor Bradley has seconded that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously. Councillor Bannon, how do you vote?
No, I'm against, mate. I was happy with the officer's recommendation, so.
Thank you. So it's been carried unanimously with the exception of Councillor Bannon, who's voted against the recommendation. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 5.4, which is the Logan Village Green upgrades funding options. I believe, Ella, you're speaking to this one. Thank you very much. Please speak to your report.
Through the Chair, the purpose of this report is to seek Council's endorsement to utilise local infrastructure program budget and the city beautification funding to fund stages 2B and 3 of the Logan Village Green upgrades. Now, this project is for the delivery of further upgrades that was identified in the Logan Village Green Master Plan. The upgrades to the Village Green in line with the Master Plan includes the enhancement and beautification of infrastructure facing onto Wharf Street, creation of the RSL event space, a removal of the car park and providing that upgrades in line with the requirements from the Heritage Department, upgrade of the Heritage Courtyard and creation of additional car parking. It is proposed to fund the work through a mix of LIP funding and city beautification funding, with the city beautification funding utilised for the upgrades along Wharf Street. Now, the request for the city beautification funding is required as a special consideration because the program requires infrastructure to be part of Road Reserve, and this sits just adjacent to Road Reserve, which is why we're bringing this report to Council. So the recommendation is that LIP funding totaling $640,248 be allocated to this project and city beautification funding of $150,000 be allocated to the project. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Ella. I have Councillor Karansky as the Divisional Councillor.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that this is the culmination of a great deal of work that actually started right back in 2016, And this is a little bit of the finishing of that project from the original Logan Village Summit and the great feedback that we heard later from residents. So I'm very excited to be able to complete this project, see it from woe to go, and I'm very happy to move when the time is right.
Thank you, Councillor Karansky. I have a question from Councillor Lane.
Sorry, through you, Mr Chair. Ella, you just said 642,000, but the report has 630,000. Which one is it?
Through the chair, when I reviewed the report, the signed lip form actually refers to 600. So I think it's a mistake in the recommendation. We would ask, and I just realised that yesterday. So we would ask that that be corrected as part of so that the recommendation aligns with the signed lip form that was tabled and signed by Councillor Karansky.
Thanks for clarifying. I just think Logan Village is scoring big, and this is awesome. Like, amazing project, and it's great that so much funding is going towards that. That's great.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lane. Councillor Wilcox.
I just wanted to say thank you as well for bringing this forward. I was a bit confused as to why it was coming through here and not governance as well. But kudos to Councillor Karansky as well for chipping in so much lip into this project to make it such a fantastic asset for Logan Village. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilcox. No further questions. Councillor Karansky has moved the motion. Would someone like to second the motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. All those in favour, please raise your hand. One moment, sorry, we have an amended motion. We will kill that.
Do we not need to change, sorry, through the chair, do we not need to change the
Yep.
amount?
Apologies, Councillor Karansky. Would you be comfortable with us amending the amount so it reflects your lip form?
Very.
That is correct. 640,248.
Going down. Yep. Ella, can you confirm the numbers on the screen are correct? $640,248, and then there's $150,000 from the beautification program.
That is correct.
Thank you very much. Councillor Karansky has moved the amended motion. Councillor Murphy, you still happy to second the amended motion? All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously. Councillor Bennon, how do you vote?
4.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bennon. That has been carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we'll now move on to item 5.5, which is the Invest Logan deregistration update for January 2024. I note that this is a confidential report, and that if you wish to discuss the entire report and its contents are confidential, and if you wish to discuss it, we need to go into confidential sitting. I will now... Oh, sorry, you want me to do GB first, don't you? Dave, before we get into that, sorry, Robert, I can see you championing at the bit to sit down and answer questions. Dave, do you have any general business for us?
No, I don't.
Thank you very much, Dave. And does anyone... Michael Asnakar is the acting director for the committee. Do you have any general business for Michael in his capacity as the waste manager, health environment waste manager? Thank you, Councillor Bradley.
Thank you. I want to thank again Mr. Asnakar for his... I've known you for a very long time, probably way before I was a councillor, probably a few years beforehand, and every time I interact with you, you've gone above and beyond, so thank you.
You're welcome. Any further compliments for Michael? No? Excellent. Good work, Michael. All right, thank you very much, Dave, Christian and Ella. I'll now call up the Director for Organisational Services, Mr. Robert Strachan. Welcome to the Planning, Economic Development Environment Committee. This report is item 5.5, the Invest Logan deregistration update. As it is a confidential report, if you wish to ask questions or discuss this matter, councillors, you will have to take it into confidential. Otherwise, Robert will be taking the report as read and we'll vote on it as it stands. Does anyone wish to move into confidential to discuss this matter? No? Excellent. Robert, do you want to speak to your report?
I can't say too much.
There we go.
It's all confidential, so...
Robert has taken the report as read. Councillor Lane has moved the recommendation on the screen. Would someone like to second that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Hall. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously in the room. Councillor Bennon, you're in support?
Yep.
That has been carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. That's how you do it, Robert. In and out. Well done. Does anyone have any general business for Michael in his capacity as acting director? No, he's been doing a great job. Do you have anything for us, Michael?
No, Mr. Chair, no.
Wonderful. Thank you, councillors. I declare the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting closed at 9:55 a.m. The City Infrastructure Committee will begin in 10 minutes at 10:05 a.m. Thank you very much.